Oh wow, buckle in, get ready for fun and learning. This is a Homeschool Pop U.S. States video. In this video, we are learning about the state of Minnesota. You're going to learn some really neat things about Minnesota that you're going to be able to share with other people. It's going to be awesome. The first thing we want to do is locate the state of Minnesota on the United States map. That way, if you ever want to visit, you know exactly where you need to go. So where is Minnesota? Where is it? Minnesota's right here. Minnesota's right here in a region of the United States called the Midwest. In fact, Minnesota is in the upper part of the Midwest region. Cool, now we know where Minnesota is. Minnesota is in the Midwest region of the United States. But let's learn some other facts. Like this. What are Minnesota's nicknames? You know, you can learn a lot about a state just by looking at some of the other names that state goes by. What are Minnesota's nicknames? We are going to be looking at two common nicknames for the state of Minnesota. The first is the North Star State. The second is the Land of 10,000 Lakes. And we're going to be looking at both of these nicknames in detail to see why Minnesota goes by these names. First, why is Minnesota called the North Star State? Well, the state motto of Minnesota is actually L'Étoile du Nord, which is French for Star of the North. The French language used to be spoken by many people living in Minnesota. There are still people in Minnesota that speak French today. Here is a drawing of the North Star in relation to the Earth. The North Star is also called Polaris, or the Pole Star. It's incredible, the North Star lines up almost perfectly with the Earth's rotation above the North Pole. So when you see the North Star, you know that direction is north. Cool, so Minnesota is nicknamed the North Star State because of its state motto, L'Étoile du Nord, the Star of the North. That's cool, but why is Minnesota called the Land of 10,000 Lakes? Well, we'll let you guess. Why do you think that Minnesota is called the Land of 10,000 Lakes? Yeah, there are tons of lakes in Minnesota. In fact, there are over 20,000 lakes in Minnesota. 21,871 lakes are in Minnesota that are over 2.5 acres in size. So there's actually way more than 20,000 lakes. The largest lake is Lake Superior, which is considered the largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area. Lake Superior is not just in Minnesota, it's also shared by Canada, Wisconsin, and even part of Michigan. To review, Minnesota is called the North Star State, and it's also called the Land of 10,000 Lakes. Alright, now we're going to look at the flag of the state of Minnesota. Yeah, right here, the flag of the state of Minnesota. Minnesota's flag is a blue flag that has the state seal in the middle. There is a lot going on in the state seal. A Native American is riding on horseback in the background. There's also a farmer with a plow, and there's a stump, and there are these tools, and then there are these trees, and a field, and a river, and a waterfall. So many things on this state seal. And of course, above this whole scene is a banner that says L'Étoile du Nord, the North Star, because Minnesota is the North Star State. Now we are going to look at where a couple of places are in the state of Minnesota. The first place we're going to look at is the city of St. Paul. St. Paul is the capital of Minnesota. Then, right next to St. Paul to the west is Minneapolis. Minneapolis is the largest city in Minnesota. Because of how close they are together, these cities are nicknamed the Twin Cities, because they're right next to each other. They are so close. They're the Twin Cities. Okay, now we're going to look at our final fact. What is the state bird of Minnesota? Ooh, what is the state bird of Minnesota? The state bird of Minnesota is the common loon. The common loon. That word loon means diver. They get that name because they dive deep underwater where they find the food that they want to eat. Then they usually swallow it while they're still underwater and then return to surface. Sometimes they'll bring their food to the surface, but a lot of times they just eat it underwater. The common loon is a great diver and likes to eat its food in the water. Thanks for watching this Homeschool Pop video on the state of Minnesota, the North Star State, the land of 10,000 lakes.